It's December 2022 and Battlefield 2042 feels like it's having its second launch. The game has gone through a mountain of changes since release. DICE knows it's better and they want people to give it another chance. So they've got 2042 on Xbox Game Pass now. There's been numerous free-to-play events. The player count has seen a giant spike, and for the first time since launch, I've seen a shift in the general reception of the game. Here's some of the comments from yesterday's video. When I played the beta back in last year, I left hating the game with the general impression of not being like Battlefield. After playing some matches yesterday and today reaching level 15, I was left wanting more. It does feel like Battlefield now. As a Battlefield veteran, I didn't buy this one after seeing the bad news about it. Decided to give it a shot for the first time, and oh my god, that felt good coming back to Battlefield. Definitely one of those that started playing when it came out on Game Pass. Been having fun, definitely a lot more fun than COD. I just started playing it and I haven't felt this good since Battlefield 3. I love it. Game is huge fun right now. Definitely give it a chance, guys. Yep, game is awesome. Veteran Battlefield player, didn't play BF5 ever and didn't play Battlefield 2042 until this weekend. Gives me Battlefield 4 vibes. Now honestly, I've never seen this many positive comments about 2042 in my YouTube videos. I think there's been a lot of people really enjoying 2042, especially with the more recent updates, but it hasn't quite hit critical mass until now. People are clearly coming back to the game or trying it for the first time and having a good time. However, it's not to say that everyone has turned that same corner. Some are still waiting on the next big update before giving it a go. I'm excited for the specialist and map reworks. That's when I start playing. And of course, there are still those who feel that EA and DICE's treatment of the franchise does not warrant giving the game a second chance. I get that everyone likes it now, but I'm never reinstalling the game. EA and DICE have been doing this since the launch of Battlefront. They released an unfinished terrible product and then use us as their testers to fix the game. It's kind of pathetic no one remembers this. And Snoop Loop really isn't wrong here. The only problem is, if you actually decided not to play any DICE games based on their launch quality, well, you would have missed out on some fantastic games over the years. So it puts consumers in a bind of wanting good games, but not wanting to support bad business practices. And as someone who's been playing this franchise since the very first game and covering it in detail for the past 10 plus years, I have to say that 2042 has had one of the poorest launches, and it's had the biggest hills to climb to get out of its problematic state. But I do think that 2042 is on its approach to the summit. Stability, performance, user interface, map overhauls, game mode overhauls, and more have turned 2042 from an aimless, buggy title into something with much more focus, purpose, and a massively improved fun factor. Now, I do say it's on the approach to the summit because we're still waiting on the last major revision, which is the specialist overhaul and the last 4 map reworks, one of which we're getting tomorrow with the 3.1 update, bringing us a new version of Manifest, plus some new portal weapons and other changes. Stay tuned tomorrow for that video. Now, as someone who's been playing since the launch of this game, one of the biggest changes for me was moving away from the 128 player count modes on Breakthrough, and even many of the Conquest playlists have been focusing on 64 players much more as well, and in general the flow has been a lot better because of it. I do still miss some of that 128 player Breakthrough chaos. It really was fantastic for sniping, and people coming in now will never get to experience that unless DICE does a throwback playlist in one of the seasons or something like that. But ultimately, DICE making the tough call and realizing that making the game work for 128 players was just not going to be feasible, and that shift has been one of the defining moments for putting the aim of the game back towards something more classic. Now, the other major change is the quality of the new maps. Not just the reworks, but the brand new maps have all been fantastic and feel much more like they were built with the proper 2042 theme in mind. The flow of the maps are great, and they offer a lot of variety in terms of just new gameplay opportunities. These have really breathed a lot of fresh life into the game. Then the quality of life improvements like the scoreboard, front-end UI overhaul, removal of cheesy voice lines, the new vehicle class system overhaul, and a lot more have really just been nudging the game into a much better experience. For me personally, seeing a shift in general reception of the game is super encouraging. 2042 is undeniably fun right now. Sure, you may queue up into one of the old maps like Hourglass or Discarded and you might be having a lesser experience, but I've been seeing those maps less and less, and mostly the newer maps or reworked maps are popping up in the queue. But the fact that this shift in player perception is happening even before the last major revision for the specialist rework comes is actually a lot more more encouraging. That Specialist rework is the last major sticking point for 2042, and once it's changed, I'm envisioning a drastic shift in playstyles and teamwork opportunities. And that revision is happening this season, which will be followed by at least 2 more seasons of content. Of course, I'm hoping for more content and support beyond Season 5, but naturally DICE isn't disclosing their plans beyond what has already been mentioned so far. My hope is that DICE are happy with a lot of the new player retention and feel that it's worth committing to even more seasons. The sooner they can announce plans for additional content, the better for the player base and the retention, in my opinion. Plus, it would allow the Battlefield player base to enjoy new content on the long journey to the next Battlefield game. I've always been envious of the regular content injections that Call of Duty players get, where Battlefield often has long breaks between titles or content. EA attempted to have a second studio make a complementary line of Battlefield games with Hardline and Visceral games, but alas, it didn't quite work out. That said, EA seems to be moving forward with the multi-studio plans for creating Battlefield content. Clearly, tons of plans are in the works. Perhaps we'll find ourselves in a place where Battlefield content is consistent and always offering new experiences for people who choose to make this game their FPS of choice. I think the free-to-play component of Battlefield is also going to become an inevitability. The free-to-play Warzone experience with Call of Duty has completely changed the business model for Activision, and DICE has tried twice now and failed twice to capture that market. First with Firestorm and then with Hazard Zone. But I don't think that they're done trying. Even leaks about 2042's development suggested that the Specialists were initially designed for a Royale-like experience, which was later scrapped. Also, rest in peace Firestorm. I think DICE actually had a winning formula with that game mode, but Battlefield 5's buggy launch and the fact that it was trapped behind the retail paywall never let it truly breathe. Killed before its time, Firestorm's Building Destruction and Ring of Fire were epic additions to the Royale experience, and I think it's one of those failures that will continue to baffle me. Perhaps DICE's string of failures will be coming to an end with the new Vince Zampella leadership and Marcus Leto leading the new studio in Seattle. On that front though, only time will tell. Anyway, 2042's revival in progress has given me a lot to look forward to. What are your thoughts on the state of Battlefield 2042 right now? I'll be covering tomorrow's patch when it launches, so stay tuned for that. DICE released the patch notes for the update earlier today, and they included some pretty big improvements. The Manifest map rework is going live, which should be interesting because that map is one of the more divisive in 2042's lineup. The lead gameplay designer on 2042 is teasing some hidden changes not listed in the patch notes as well. DICE also revealed the Specialist rework is going live with the 3.2 update at the end of January, so there's a huge amount to look forward to in the next month. Now, if you're looking for more 2042 content to watch, go check out my best weapons guide that I released yesterday. If you're looking for some guidance with what guns to use, it should help you get started. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.